everyone. Welcome to the show. My guest today is Jeremy Lang. So Jeremy is a longtime buddy of mine. We first met back in like 2001, back in my hometown of Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. Of course, both of us actually grew up in small towns, but we ended up connecting and meeting there because of hockey. And over the years, we spent a lot of time together, actually playing hockey, lots of partying, lots of hanging out, that type of thing. But around 2008, 2009, when I was going through my entrepreneurial transition of like really trying to figure out exactly what I wanted to do and just honing my skills in the social world and the online space, websites, just everything to do with digital, Jeremy was going down his own path. So he was somebody that grew up in a farming type community. His dad drove him around, and one night he remembers seeing these fields on fire and asked his dad about these straw fields that were on fire. And little did he know that it would actually spark an idea for a company, an ultra successful company that this day is creating massive impact on the world. It's called PELA. And Jeremy and I talked about that journey of the idea of what PELA could become without even knowing what it would become right now, which is this, multi-million-dollar company that's creating massive change in the world around sustainability and, reusing the products and recycling the products that we actually use in our everyday lives. But he spoke about the personal journey, the time when he went and got his business registration papers, but didn't tell anybody because he didn't want anybody to talk him out of it. The time that he realized that he needed to build a business around this idea that he had and didn't know where to start. And then all of the fears that came up around it. He even spoke very vulnerably and honestly about the experience of work-life balance and how, he really leaned into his work, even through some really painful times. And, I won't spoil what we ultimately talked about because I want you to hear it from his words, but he just really spoke from the heart about what this journey is meant to him and the ups and the downs and the everything in between. And I think what anybody that's listening to this will appreciate is that this is the truth. So if you want to know what it's like to have an idea, to have a spark inside of you that says, I feel like I want to follow this down a path. I want to start a business. I want to be an entrepreneur. It takes a certain sacrifice. The real story of what actually took somebody from idea to a $10 million plus company that will far exceed even that in the years to come is a lot of bumpy roads. And you'll see in the conversation that I have with Jeremy, it's one that you have to face with extreme gratitude for every single experience along the way. So this was a really just two friends having a conversation. I think you're really going to enjoy it. And I'm going to be sure to link up all of these resources that me and Jeremy talked about, including PELA, as well as this new product that they created that is going to revolutionize the way that people, compost their food and the impact that that's going to have on the environment. So I won't spoil it for you. Make sure you watch the whole interview so that you can find out more. So let's go give it a listen. Jeremy Lang, welcome to my show, my friend. So good to see you again.
Happy to be here. Congratulations on the show too. It's amazing. You're working in your superpowers. You've always been an amazing listener and really good at encouraging people and coaching people. And have a big heart. So I think it's awesome to see. Good job.
I appreciate that, man.
Yeah.
I've worked a lot in the last year on receiving because in the past I might have heard that and been like, yeah, it's what I do, it's all good. But no, I appreciate the feedback on that. It means a lot. And I agree. It's something that's when I started it at the start of the year, I had the idea and then I kind of sat on it for about 4 months for multiple reasons, including indecision and fear of failure and imposter syndrome. And you know what I mean? Just all the overthinking that a person does. But when I finally landed on what it's intended to be, which is, I have these great conversations and have amazing people in my life. And why shouldn't I share these? These stories not only help and impact the people that listen, but also the people that come on here and talk about stuff where they can share what the journey's been like,
Yeah.
And
therapeutic.
It totally is. And it is for me too. I actually did an episode talking about how podcasting is healing, like just being able to say out loud and be heard and be seen and that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very true. Once you get started, it's almost addictive. So I don't see myself stopping anytime soon.
No, that's awesome. That's great. I was getting a kick of when you were talking about the name. I thought maybe you'd use Dusty Johnson's StraightCow. No Bull.
StraightCow show. The No Bull show. Well, you know what? It's funny you say that because I actually played around with like the word truth and like, then I was like, maybe it should be the Truth and No Bull show. And I sat with that for about a day and then I was like, it sounds a little like
StraightCow.
StraightCow show.
That's awesome.
That would be a pretty epic name too. Mm-hmm. Hey, the beautiful part is that I can change it anytime I want.
That's right.
Because I'm the owner, founder, chief floor sweeper. I do all.
For sure. You can do it all.
Yeah, I can do whatever I want. But yeah, man, I've been looking forward to chatting with you because one, it's been a while since we actually connected. So it's just good to see you.
Yeah.
But two, also, just in that context of storytelling, there's a quote by Brene Brown, which I know you like as well. She talks about how one day you will tell your story of how you overcame what you went through, and it'll be somebody else's survival guide.
Yeah.
So that's kind of our grounding piece for the conversation.
It's great.
And yeah, I can't wait to introduce you to everyone here too. I would have introduced how I know you and all of that at the start of this show, but let's maybe back up to the time when we first met, which was like early 2000s. And I don't know if we were ever in school together, but we were connected through hockey. Yeah. I know that for sure. But do you remember the first time we met?
I do. I kind of remember playing against you in junior, but I remember when, for some reason, and I do remember it was in the adult safe during university and we were going to provincials and we were on a bus together or something. And, when I said that, when I think of you, like I remember you were totally present and listening and caring. I remember that feeling. I do. And you've always supported me in that. Like day one of PELA, you were the first one that actually kind of got it and believed in what I could do and like encouraged me to do that. So, I mean, like that, seeing you now doing this, I just think it's so fitting. But it was on the way to Regina when we won provincials and then went to the most expensive free trip ever for nationals.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was like 2001 or 2000.
Yeah, 2000. It was 2000. It's when I finished university. And yeah. But yeah, and probably crossed paths a little bit in university, some mutual friends and hockey stuff and that. But yeah, that was the main standout moment for me. And then, and then fast forward 2 years later when you helped me with all the early PELA stuff.
Yeah, and that I definitely want to dig into that too. And the fast forward, I just have these flashes of like moments that we have shared and stuff. And I remember the Metallica concert we went to.
Yes.
That was such a good time.
That was awesome.
Like
and Pearl Jam.
Concert
yes, for sure. That's right.
Anyways, we won't dive too much into those stories.
We won't bore people with that. Yeah.
But yeah, like PELA. So like for anybody that doesn't know, so Jeremy founded this company called PELA. And it was, what year was that? Like 2010, 2009?
Yeah. Well, I started Open Mind Developments in 2007. We can get into that story a little bit. But then did R&D at the U of S, but the very first PELA case was launched in 2011. And then I think that's 2011, 2012 is kind of when you helped him with the website and all that stuff and everything. Like everything, setting up Gmail and like totally. Jerry Lynn and I like, oh my God, you're giving us the tutorials and you were very patient with us. So thank you for that. But helped us get to the next step, right? And that's what it's all about.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the important story to tell here, as well as some of the backstory of what ultimately led you to even just create it. But I remember that time too. And I had been in entrepreneurship since like 2004 or so, and stumbled my way through it and had mentors and stuff along the way and didn't really even know what the hell I was doing, but just kind of, I don't want to say faked it till I made it because I had a lot of guidance along the way.
Yeah.
But I definitely had certain skill sets that I think were very useful at that time with where you were at, because you had an idea, you had some inspiration that was rooted in a story that I've heard you tell before about like driving around with your dad in the truck over in the, It wasn't Yorkton. Where
it was from Regina to Yorkton. It wasn't his old big old white Buick. Floating on the highway.
Maybe just share that story, because for people that don't know, like PELA started as essentially this company that had a mission to turn flax straw and these biopolymers into something useful. And it ended up being a case. And this was the stuff that we worked together. But maybe give everybody the backstory of like why, how does somebody even come up with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, right now we do everyday products without everyday waste. That's our mission. But it started with, when I was 10 years old, we're driving down the highway in Dad's like 1977 Buick, floating down the highway, going from on the prairies, literally floating. And it's harvest time, and it's it's starting to get dark out. We could see the horizon it was glowing orange, and we came out of the Capel Valley, and I saw these big fields on fire. And the reason I remembered, because it was like an eerie feeling, like I'd never seen that before. And so I said to Dad, "Hey, Dad, what's going on?" And they said, "Well, the farmers, they grow the flax for the oil seed, and the fiber, the straw that's left over, there's fiber in it, and it's really strong, and it gets caught in their equipment, so they burn it." So I said, "Well, if it's that strong, it must be good for something." And he said, "Well, maybe when you get older, you can think of something." So just thinking about the power, I'm even digging into this a little bit more, but just little glimpses of, I don't know, belief. Like Dad didn't say, Like he kind of said, he planted the seed that, hey, maybe I could think of something. Like that type of thinking. And I don't know if you wanted me to tell the whole story now, Trevor, but I can that's kind of we wanted to use waste, this waste material. How can we use it? What can I use it for? And that kind of planted the seed, just thinking about what can we use this material for.
Yeah. And then I'll maybe lead you into that. But so you went to school, went to university, got an engineering degree, I believe, right?
Agriculture, soil science, and environmental science. Yeah.
Right. And then, but worked with an engineering company, I believe. So you had a little bit of kind of mix between your ag background and education and the engineering side of things. So, just to give everybody the full context of what led you to this idea then. So maybe share kind of how it all came together in 2008, 2009.
Yeah. So I worked as an environmental consultant for actually 17 years. And I was climbing the corporate ladder. Like when I was 28, I got put into a leadership position. And I was I think I was the youngest leader in company history. So leading people who were my parents' age. And that was good. And it was good. It wasn't great, but it was good. Doing what I thought, society, you got to climb the corporate ladder. But I always wanted to start a company. Like it was just in my head. And I remember we went on vacation in 2007 when Cole was born. And Jerry Lynn had bought me a book it was a greatness guide. By Robin Sharma. And that's kind of when I really started working on self-work. And there was a line in it, it was, hell on earth is being on your deathbed and meeting the person you could have become.
Yeah.
That was kind of the kick in the butt to get going. So that's when I'm okay,
one
screw
quote,
it.
Hey?
One quote. And so I'm screw it. I'm going to start a company and I'm going to call it Open Mind Developments. Open mind for a different view. Nothing else matters. Getting back to Metallica. And I didn't have a product in mind, but I wanted to look at things with an open mind differently. So started looking. And I didn't even go to Richie Gabrook, our buddy. I didn't go to lawyers. I did it all online because I didn't want people to talk me out of it. Right? It was, so anyway, started Open Mind Developments, got the thing home. I remember got it in a box, all the certificates, and to Jerry then, okay, now we just got to figure out how to get this thing to make money. But anyway, fast forward, looking 2008, we were on vacation in Kauai, so on this beautiful secluded beach, and digging in the sand with Cole, who was a year and a half at the time, our son, and there were little pieces of plastic everywhere, and that bothered me. I'm who would litter on this beautiful beach? Getting back to gut feelings, made me feel sick. Why would you do that? And then when we got back, I learned about, the Pacific Gyre and plastic and all that stuff, and wanted to find another solution. And that's how I got into R&D and led to the PELA case. But that's it. That's the story real quick.
Yeah. And then when we got connected talking about this, and I think we were just buddies. So obviously we were just talking about stuff. And at some point you were sharing about what you were doing, and you were building prototypes and had all kinds of secret stuff going on. And But I remember you sharing these with me, and there was just things that like for me just clicked where I was like, oh, like marketer brain would kick in. And then also I remember, I think you did some of your production at Dave Zielinski's shop there for a while too, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, we ended up doing engraving there, but the very first, we did the injection molding at Innovation Place with Bernie, he moved to Kelowna and he's manufacturing there. And yeah, it's amazing.
And then the early days of PELA, obviously taking it from an idea and this product, and really leaning into the thing that, you know, your schooling, your education, your passion was actually around. Now you had to jump into like building a business around it, creating a brand, getting the message out there, that type of thing. And that was the area that not just me, but also Shar really played a big part in as well. And I remember at that time, like it was still so new, like people were definitely socially conscious and environmentally conscious, but not nearly at the level as it is today.
No.
And it probably has a lot to do with just the social world and just how much video there is and education and information there is out there. But I think what always struck me was that like you had a vision for this before it was what it is now. I remember you talking about this, what exists now, like 10 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And what maybe sparked that for you too? Was it also this, reading different things like the personal work? Like, how do you go from being somebody that has this thing that you remember as a kid, these burning fields, to an idea, and then maybe kind of in a shy way, taking out an incorporation booklet and not wanting to tell anybody because you don't want somebody to talk you out of it? Like, tell me about that experience of like the learning curve of self improvements and self development and that type of thing, and what you went through, and the highs and the lows and everything in between.
Being curious. I think that's another thing. My dad always like curious. How do things work? And like, and that was a big part of, the whole learning about, and then, learning about the materials and how to do it, and always just keep going, persistence, you work hard, like all of that stuff was I think it's just in our nature, especially on the prairies, even more so, that hardworking mindset, and then just the I've always thought sustainable solutions, it's just smart. Like I remember some university classes just talking about sustainable farms, and it's almost like the same as, the biggest little farm like that. Everything's tied together and nature and mimicking nature. So that's kind of, and how unnatural plastics are. Like everything in nature goes in cycles. I mean, like goes back to the earth, whereas plastic is a linear progression. It keeps building and building and building. And then getting back to, things that you'd give your head a shake over, like, recycling's broken. Less than 10% actually gets recycled. Like, so we're making these things that everyone says it's recycled, but doesn't actually get recycled. That type of thing. Or you keep your phone for 2 years, you have the case to protect it, lasts for hundreds or thousands of years, right? And it won't be recycled. That's just like over-engineered or ridiculous. So like doing things to make that change. And I don't know how deep we want to go into the struggles, but if you want to hit the highs or the lows, but
as deep as you want to go, man, there's obviously many layers to all of this stuff. I just think back to like, I'll give you maybe one piece and then you can riff off of from here. But like, I remember you talking about this in like 2009, 2010, and we start working together. And then like you say, like I'm helping you with emails and helping you with a website, and there's funding and grants and all of these things. And then as we were starting to put the message out into the world, there was a need for video content. And I've shared this video a picture with you where we went out to Stanley Park, right?
Yes.
And we had this set up. We had our buddy Michael Askey with us too, and he had the camera and the microphone and stuff. And I just remember, and you actually joked about it. You're like, oh man, I was sweating bullets.
So nervous.
so nervous.
Yeah.
But now, like, and obviously 10 years later, like here we are, right? We're having this conversation now, whereas 10 years ago. So maybe just speak to that though, like where it was like, okay, this is real. Now what? Oh shit, I got to get on camera. I got to speak about this mission, this vision. You got to communicate it. What was coming up for you then?
I think a lot of this stuff is, being almost like kind of like a people pleaser, don't want to ruffle any feathers, don't want to put myself out there, that type of thing. And I remember hearing the courage to be disliked. All I can do is control what I do. Like I show up, I'll try and be nice and kind and friendly and all that stuff. If someone sees something and they don't like me, that's their problem, man. Thinking about that. And then, even seeing, find things that motivated me. Like, it's not just about me. It's about, maybe I can inspire my children to think how to go after their dreams and, get in front of the camera. And I can say, I used to be really nervous on camera, but I'm getting actually better at it. And you know what I mean? I see the value, like that type. It gets back to the story you tell yourself on that. But I think it was just more just having to do it. But it's interesting when you think about the first team in any business is your family, right? And what they go through. And for how many years did I put PELA first over the family?
And then the family got enrolled into it, right? Jerry Lynn.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Notes,
everything.
That was like crazy.
I think we have well over 1 million customers now, but like 2018, we were still pretty much out of the basement. So like from 2011 to 2018, it was pretty much Jerry Lynn and the kids, and you guys helping out, and we had an employee, but it was full-time work, and it's the story of every entrepreneur, but it's like weekends, evenings, early mornings, work a full-time job. Vacation time was all PELA. And I was just thinking back on, I think you know a little bit about this story, but you've shared your story. But like, so from 2008, for 5 years, we had 6 miscarriages. And we had IVF failed 3 times. And when I look back on that, I think the business was a way for me to bury my head and not be there. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I dealt with it. And looking back now, it's just like, oh my God. And then we moved 5 times, like trying to make more money, flipping houses, rentals in 5 years. My poor wife and kids, what I put them through. And, so now looking back at it, the what's best for my family is the main guiding principle right now in my life. So, and trying to, be the, extraordinary father, husband, friend, but it's daily work, man. Yeah. So anyway, when you look back at what drives you and what motivates you, what keeps you going, and sometimes it's not always a good thing,
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you telling that story. I honestly forgot about that. I really did, man. And it's interesting when you bring that up, because I actually just did another interview before this too. And I was asking that friend of mine who has a kid now that's just over a year old, and talked about fatherhood and how it's just so incredible, and how him and his wife are just committed to like being the example for their kids, as opposed to telling them what to do or like setting them on this path. And, you need to play this sport because daddy did, you know what I mean? And then I actually shared with him, because we hadn't talked for like 7 years. And I shared with him that like he knew my vision like 7 years ago, which was to have kids. And me and Shar just got engaged when I met him. And I don't think he even knew the fact that we had lost 2 kids in preterm birth as well, and went through all kinds of, treatments and a million different things. And I showed you pictures of our 3 and 4-year-old boys now. Yeah. And of course, your oldest son your only son is 14. And how old's your daughter?
Yeah, she's 8. So that's the 6 years apart. And so when I told the story of 2008 in Kauai, so Cole was a year and a half. When we got back is when we had our first miscarriage, and that's when I went, and then getting back to just the story you tell ourselves, like as a couple, it was hard, like, but we told ourselves this is going to make us stronger. You know what I mean? But I mean that, and even going through COVID as a company, like we looked at with the team, we're going to come out of this, we're going to be stronger. It's going to be hard, but we're going to be stronger. We're going to come out the other side. We're going to be better. We're going to be a tighter team. Like that story you tell yourself is so key, but it's hard.
No doubt. No doubt. Yeah. I think, it's like you can use a million analogies, right? But like diamonds are forged in pressure, right? In stone. And there's just so many analogies to that. But a lot of it, and again, I do these interviews on Fridays because usually I stack them up, and they're always one leads to the next. It's another reason why I do this. Honestly, it's like it gets me back into conversations with people where I'm talking about things that really matter and that other people need to hear too. Like, hey, we didn't say entrepreneurship was going to be easy. And if it is, you're probably not trying hard enough, or you haven't actually gone through the thing that you're supposed to go through yet to get to that other side,
Right. Yeah.
And the minute that you think like, I made it, usually something comes and just kicks you right in the side and you're blindsided until you get into that headspace of like, oh, wait, this is actually the human experience. It's actually enjoying all aspects of the highs and the lows and knowing that it's part of the journey and not being too attached to anything. Because I know for me, and maybe you want to speak to this, but like when we lost our 2 kids, it was devastating. And I remember like 4 years later, Shar and I went through a program called the Overview Method with Dr. Nima Rahmani. And he had us look at it from a perspective of duality, right? Where we knew that, or we hadn't really looked at the perspective of like, if we didn't lose these kids, we wouldn't have these other kids. We kind of looked at it, but we never really looked at it. And then the other side of it though, too, and you already kind of alluded to it, was like, I shamefully felt like I wasn't actually ready for kids anyways. So when we lost those first 2 kids, there was almost a sense of relief. And I felt a lot of shame over that, man, for a long time, because I was like, how could I possibly feel that,
Wow.
But then I'd dive into work and I had a choice. I'd be like, I can feel guilty for diving into the work, or I can really just honor what I truly felt, which was like, man, I just didn't feel ready for whatever reason. And that is what it is,
Yeah.
And just owning that, right? Just saying it out loud is kind of freeing to say it, knowing that I would love to have had those 2 kids, but it wasn't in the cards.
Mm-hmm. Well, even like just identity stuff too. I've heard you talk about, and I've gone through it a few times, and I think it's a lifelong journey of like your old self, or like shedding that. You could probably say it better, but it clicked into me like, no, I'm a hockey player, or I'm a corporate ladder climber, or I'm an entrepreneur, or I'm equal this. But and that's how that changes, and like chipping away at stuff, and yeah. But anyway, thanks for sharing that, Trevor. I don't want to. It's like, oh my God, I'll be a puddle here right away if we can talk about it anymore. But it's like, but I mean, I don't know what to say. It's not easy, right? I mean, like you go through it, and it's like the old saying, I can't remember who it was. I think it was Eleanor Roosevelt. When you're going through hell, keep going. It's hard, man. But like, yeah, but it makes you, and not that we didn't appreciate, we've always been grateful, but it just makes you even more grateful, right? And I think that's one of the biggest blessings that every time I maybe get a little frustrated or impatient with the kids, I just bite my lip and like, be grateful, man. Like that's a lifelong lesson. So yeah.
Well, we can move on to some other topics here too, but I appreciate you even diving as far as you did into that too, because it's important for people to hear that, right? Like it's not, a lot of times people see, like PELA right now is an extremely successful company, like financially wise, impact wise, job creation wise, culture wise. But like it started with you and an idea, and you and your wife sacrificing and writing handwritten letters at the kitchen table on holidays. Like that's the real story, that people ultimately I think need to know. But getting back to the kind of the driving force around the just environmental impact side of it. One of the interview that I actually just published today at the time of us recording this was with a friend of mine who I met through this men's group that gets together every Monday on a Zoom call. And it's just a space to like share and just be seen, heard, and just show up, But he's actually a sea captain, and he's actually been stuck, not against his will. He could leave, but he's in New Zealand because the 70-foot sailing boat that he was on, that is a research boat, stopped there, COVID hit, and they haven't been able to leave since, because if he leaves, he can't come back because New Zealand literally shut down, right?
Yeah.
But he talked about how like he's been sailing for his entire life. His mom was a sailor. He's been on these boats for like 20 years doing research around alternative energy sources through microbes in the water. So he's been testing waters. And he told me the story about sailing through the South Pacific garbage patch and how, like, from his own recollection, he's like, you can't even fathom it. He says, you look as far as you can see and all you see is horizon. There's no land and it's just garbage. It's just plastic, like 95% plastic. And he says, you hear it banging up against the boat, and then you go to sleep and you wake up and you see the same thing for another day.
Wow.
He said 3 full days of sailing through nothing but garbage. And you can't even like visualize that until you start seeing these documentaries and stuff coming out, like Seaspiracy and even An Inconvenient Truth. And like, there's so many different things. And he actually referenced a site called Project Drawdown. Have you heard of Project Drawdown?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just another educational platform. They support a lot of different initiatives and stuff too. But anyways, I guess what I'm saying is, like, this is a big deal. Like, what you ultimately, I think, were driven to try and create change around 10 years ago. And now your company is making a major dent in that. And you want to maybe speak to what PELA has ultimately evolved into, and your involvements and journey along the way too?
Yeah, absolutely. The one thing that, there's an old First Nation saying, we are the people we've been waiting for. And as, I want to talk about my partners, but as we go and like know that, I don't know, you just kind of assume like, well, there's this magical group of people out here who are going to make changes in the world. Like, well, don't worry about it. They got it. There isn't. It's us.
They doesn't exist.
Yeah. No, that's right. So, I mean, that's something that we think about a lot. And anyway, getting back to 2015 is when Jerry Lynn are like, oh my God, what are we doing? Like, it's all PELA. Like, it's just kind of going like this. And so I started working with a coach, and I applied to this entrepreneur thing. I realized I needed help. So strengths and weaknesses, what am I good at? Where do I need help? Like I think the more we become our true selves and work on our strengths and weaknesses, the better people we become, and also the better businesses, or the better community member, or the better team member, like father, husband, all that stuff. So I spent the last $10,000 in open mind developments and got into this event, which was the MMT event. And it was in Napa Valley. Right. Yeah.
And
in the end, like 7,000.
They're not even doing them anymore, are they?
They're not. They're kind of like,
right?
Jason Gaynard is on he's on our board of advisors as well. So they still do it, but not live events like for a while, but still part of the community. But anyway, talk about putting your heart on the line and being authentic and vulnerable. Like, I basically applied there, they had 7,000 applicants. They only select like 700 people. And it's not just based on your net worth. It's based on your values kind of, and you got to be like a good person, and just said, I need help. Like, here's what I believe in. I need help getting there. Anyway, got into the event, and, at first, finding your group or your team or your tribe, like that type of thing. The first night I got there, I remember thinking like, man, I don't belong here. Like, I called Jerry Lynn and I was breaking down. I'm like, these guys are like, how their businesses are like doing this and that. And I'm like, just like, upset kind of. And then anyway, stayed there and got to know a lot of people, and found out that, hey, these are people who can speak like the way I'm thinking and the way I'm feeling, and get vulnerable. And so anyway, by the end, it was a big change. And that's where I met Matt, who's our CEO, and Brad, our chairman, was also there. So I knew how to make the product. I didn't know how to market it, right? I didn't know how to scale it. So Matt brought him in as a partner, and then we brought on Brad Brad knew how to scale it. So talking about, and now when we look at it, like, and then, Matt started investing in it and marketing all that stuff. And in 2017, 2018 is when we started to pick up some steam. 2019, we took on venture capital. Like, that's when it really grew. But I think the biggest change, and I think when I'm thinking back to you believing in me, or my dad believing in me, or my wife, and then like opening up and being external and saying, I need help. And then when I met Matt, and when it went from I've got this to we've got this, and someone else saying, oh yeah, like you can do that. We can start a website. You can sell on the website. And Matt saying, oh, you want to take it to here? Oh yeah, I've done that, and we can do that. And Brad's like, oh, you want to make millions and millions of pieces of products? I can know how to do that. I've done that belief. And then you get more and more team members believing in your mission, and you set this, the North Star, I think, is what's been a big part of it too. Like, we set our, we want to create everyday products with everyday waste, create a waste-free future. We want to eliminate 1 billion pounds of waste. a year. By 2028, we set that goal in 2018. And that's how we kind of evolved into other products. But I think those are all key things, just North Star, but teamwork being number one. I think a lot about like from team sports, like we've all played with hockey players who are unbelievable scorers, right? And they're not very good at defense, but we keep them on forward, or you don't put Wayne Gretzky in net, and like having people play their roles and I'll dig the puck out of the corner and, well, you can't score, but you can, but something, you know what I mean? But like that type of thinking. So anyway, that's kind of, and then, but now, some of the things I'm most proud of is we've donated over $500,000 to nonprofits that help to clean up beaches. We've, eliminated over 500,000 pounds of waste. So we're a long way off from 1 billion, but I mean, just by having a more sustainable alternative and just even the environment that we've created where we're trying to create the most sustainable business, not just environmentally and socially sustainable, but a business where people can actually be themselves and chip away at the frickin' society what thinks you're supposed to be, and just let it, become our true selves and, dress how you want to dress and be creative, be authentic, and that type of magic. Like, I mean, just try and create that environment that creates that type of magic to keep growing. It's amazing.
Well, and it's, you summed it up in like 6 minutes there, but the truth is like each one of those steps takes courage, right? It takes you step, at least I can speak for my own self too. And, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but every time I've started a venture, I reflect on past decisions and maybe things that didn't go so well. And then I've seen how it's like handcuffed me into making the next decision. I was like, oh, better not take on a partnership because the last one didn't go well. And this one probably will do the same thing. Like, until I got mentors that said, like, why do you believe that to be true? Like,
right.
You realize, like, I remember somebody saying to me when in fact, I don't know if I've talked about this in the podcast, but in university, I had an entrepreneurial course, right? It was like one of 2 electives that I could take or whatever. And we had the idea, we called it Quick Bites. And it was essentially online ordering system for food where we deliver it. It's skip the dishes. It's Uber Eats. And this was in 2002, right? And I remember telling this story and kind of joking about it. It's like, oh, there's my multi-million-dollar idea. And I remember a mentor saying to me like, oh, you got one of those? Like, that's a rite of passage. If you've got a handful of those stories, it's just, what are you going to do about it, right? Because the next time you have that idea and you don't take a step out of your comfort zone to align with, because like these partners that you found ultimately took you to a place that like where I was at in my business, where my core skill set was, like I couldn't do what those guys did. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So, but it takes courage though, doesn't it?
My God.
To actually
so
trust
much. You don't know
other people and yourself even.
Yeah. And that's your baby that you put your blood, sweat, and tears in.
Exactly.
And giving them a piece but it's trust. I don't know. Like those are they really were some of the toughest times. Like then you start thinking, oh my God, are they trying to screw me? Like, you don't know, but you trust someone until you can't. Right. And you can, I think it's an old Einstein quote, but you can go through the world too. Either the world is out to get you or it's a beautiful place. Like that's how you can look at it. So, and you trust someone until you can't. And, we did a lot of work up front. Like we did character traits, values, made sure all that matched ahead of time. What are your roles going to be? Like now it's now we look at it as, I'm the heart, Matt's the brains, and Brad's the muscle. But that's how we look at it. And you can go so far with brains, you can go so far with muscle, you can go so far with heart, but you can go way farther when you have all 3 of those working together and complementing each other's strengths and weaknesses. So, but that's and it's, it's like, I think a business, it's like raising a child. You put all your love and care into it, but one day, if they want to go see the world and change the world, they got to leave the house. And you got to get other people involved and can't keep them in the basement.
It's a good analogy. Every piece of that. Yeah. And you're still in it, right? It's like, and I don't think it ever ends. Like even parenthood, like you're kind of referencing in that context, right? Like you've got a teenager now. I've got 3 and 4-year-olds. And I would imagine that if I asked you now, Do you remember what it was like at 3 and 4 and how fast did that go for you?
Oh, those 10 years? Crazy. I remember, so quick. Like, and I remember Jared and I were in, it was like a grocery store when Cole was maybe 2 or 3. And this lady, older lady, came up to him and she talked really nice. And she said, just sharing your thoughts. And she said, the days are long, but the years go fast. And it's so true, especially when they're early. You know what I mean? And it's almost, Trevor, when you think about, like, actually, I remember thinking about this, like business. And if you look at the long road and pick away the compound effect, a little bit of work every day. Well, 10 years is going to go by whether you're working on your dream or you're not. Like, I mean, it's going to go by like that. So, like, if you have a few hours a day and you have something you believe in and you want to do, if you put a couple hours into it every day over 10 years, you're going to get somewhere. And it's almost like the old saying too, like, the best time to plant the tree was 20 years ago, but the next best time is today. Like those type of right now.
Well, you referenced Robin Sharma even too. And I think you were the first person that brought his name up to me even too. And it came into my world, but he's got that 20-20-20 philosophy or methodology that he refers to, right? Like 20 minutes of movement, 20 minutes of learning, and 20 minutes of reflection, I think, is kind of the 3 buckets.
Yeah.
And, I'm not going to say I've been perfect at it, but I've definitely tried to incorporate that, and am consciously incorporating that into my routine in the morning, getting up earlier, doing that. And it compounds. It really does. Yeah. Your smallest habits ultimately lead to your greatest successes on the other end. It's just nobody gives you a high five or celebrates the fact that you got up early again.
That's right. And yeah, for sure. And it's like the compound effect, which goes both ways. That's a good book by Darren Hardy. And you can, I think we all have buddies or whoever, like you can either drink a can of Coke a day, and that compounds over 10, 20 years, or drink every night, or like you can on all of a sudden you're going to have, or you can maybe do a few push-ups every day or whatever, exercise every day. And over 10 years, I think we all have examples in our lives of, people who've chosen different tracks in life and how that can add up. And it's not easy. Another good, that's where I got all these sayings, but another one I've been reflecting on is hard choices, easy life. Easy choices, hard life. Easy choices being, I'm just going to lay on the couch tonight. I'm not going to do any work on this, or I'm going to have another couple of beer, or I'm not going to exercise today, or I'm not going to write down my goals. And you know what I mean? Yeah. Or I'm going to whatever, like, man, those things add up. Hard choices being, I am going to go to the gym. I am going to do this. I'm going to focus on, I'm going to try and get better every day, like that type of thing. I'm going to journal. I'm going to be grateful, like that. That adds up too. But it's a lifelong journey, and by no means have it figured out. But I mean, I think the name, like you talk about, the journey is the important thing. That's it.
Yeah. Well, I remember one of the pivotal things that I heard back in like 2008, I think it was a Gary Vaynerchuk speech or a presentation before he was what he is now. He was still speaking on stages, but he didn't have like the following that he does now and the 800 employees and that type of thing. But he actually was on a stage at some tech conference. I can't remember what it was, but this was when the TV show Lost was really popular. And I remember people watching that and just being like addicted to it or fascinated by it. And you can do this for anything, like Survivor, The Amazing, any kind of thing where you're like, well, I got to watch Lost tonight, And he actually said that on stage when somebody was asking him about like, hey, how do I get to where you are? And he's like, stop watching fucking Lost.
Yeah.
And that was it. Exactly. And he just stopped talking. And people were like laughing. And then they were kind of like, oh shit, he's serious, Yeah.
But
it's a great analogy. It's like, I think about, and this is just to be clear, I'll say this out loud for people listening. It's like, this is not to say that you need to hustle for 16 hours a day and burn yourself out, because I did that too.
Yeah.
And that's not the answer.
No.
But it's about choice, right? It's just about choice, right? It's, do you read a chapter of a book or do you watch the sports highlights?
Right.
Like that's the most obvious example I can think of. I shut down my sports channels years ago. Still enjoy a good game, but
absolutely. That hustling reminds me of, I don't know, like when, you see runners and like, what are you running from? What are you running from? But then you can flip and say, oh, actually, what are you running to? What are you chasing down? Like in that, and is it healthy? And like, yeah, that hustle porn stuff or whatever you want to call it. Like you're right. It has to be balanced. And the one thing that I've found helpful over the years is like, and getting back to strengths and weaknesses, but like, what is best for you? What's your perfect day look like? Because yours is probably different than mine. And like, how can you get as close as possible to living that perfect day? Not what society thinks you're supposed to be doing. You know what I mean? Like, you know, you have to be CEO or you have to climb the corporate ladder. Or you have to, no, what do you want to do? If you could do, what was your perfect day look like? And then chipping away to try and get as close as you can to that. And I think you're probably getting closer to it. I am, but it's, you can't do it alone. And it's just, and every time as we grow and attract better team members, we just get better. It's like building a team, a sports team, better coaches, better GM, better financing, better front office, better goalies, better player. I mean, like, it's just like, but you have that mission of chasing the Stanley Cup. That brings you all together. And then on a larger scale, and I think of PELA and like our mission, but like, and what's happening in the world, like if you really want to get cheesy, like the planet is really the only thing that we all have in common. Every single one of us. I don't care where you're from or what you believe, or like that. I know that sounds cheesy, but maybe that's the thing that can bring us all together.
Yeah, it's so true. I'm actually looking back at the show notes because I wrote them last night as I watched back the interview that I did with Cyrus. But one of his quotes were, "We are in the middle of the most epic story in history. The people that are alive on this planet right now are going to decide the fate of our species for 1,000 years. This generation, that's the story. We are in it. We have a choice to make this an epic tale of redemption and heart and courage to make the right choices." Like, there was just so many, man. And we've already got lots from here too. But I'm just saying that, like, I totally agree with you on that. And that was something, you know, there's always moments that kind of hit you. And we actually referenced this too, that he reminded me, Al Gore came out with his Inconvenient Truth in like 2006. And he was saying how, like, yeah, it had an impact. Like, people were like, oh, damn. But did anybody do anything about it? And ultimately, I think what his message was that we have to create curiosity around differences in our cultures, in our people, in our foods, just a global perspective, which creates this appreciation for things, because the things that we appreciate and we love, we protect.
Right.
So like the documentaries are incredibly important, and of course, PELA and what you're creating for products is important. But I think the thing that really stands out the most of the evolution of PELA is the storytelling, man. Like your guys' videos and the way that you're communicating your vision, like it's epic. It's really, really.
No, thanks. I think that's key. I remember a big learning was the most successful businesses, it's 90% marketing and 10% idea. If you have the very best product or idea in the world and no one sees about it, no one knows about it, well, you got nothing, right? Or you look at what's the most successful restaurant? Well, it's not the Michelin 5-star, it's McDonald's. It's marketing, it's getting the word out. And I am really excited about just everything you talked about, but business as a force of good. Like, if you could provide a more sustainable alternative to a conventional product and customers start to choose that product, well, that's pretty good. I mean, eventually you'll keep growing. And if you're eating your competitor's lunch because you're being more sustainable and good or better, then eventually they're going to have to switch or go out of business. And I know that's maybe a lofty goal, but I really, truly believe that, you know, that's what's exciting about this point in time. Even look at engineers. We've hired engineers and we're working on, you know, new products, new devices that can really get rid of a lot of waste. Like, you know, get rid of design waste out of the human experience. And I think about like engineers and new grads or whoever, marketers, not that, you know, it used to be you get out of school and maybe you're an engineer and it'd be cool. Maybe one day I can design that bridge. But now you're looking at, actually, maybe now I can actually engineer something that pulls carbon out of the atmosphere, or, you know what I mean? Like that type of thinking. Or a lot of what we're finding is because we're mission-based, is a lot of our staff, we're getting high quality people who could work wherever they want, but now they want to use their skills as a force of good. if I'm going to be putting in this much time, it may as well be, it's something that I believe in. And anyway, we're by no means perfect, but we believe in better. And I think that's the most important thing. You saw the first PELA case. It was awful, right? If I would have waited for it to be perfect, I'd still be waiting. It's still not perfect, but I mean, you go and you learn and you get better and all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, of course, I live in the city where your headquarters are now here in Kelowna. Mm-hmm. And I remember I dropped off some PELA cases because I had some OG archives.
Yeah, they're hanging up. They're hanging up in the office now.
Dude, you better put those in like protective plastic cases too, because they're literally going to biodegrade, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I still remember one of the very first PELA cases that came off was that like dark brown one that had the little, flax pieces in it.
I still have that one. July 7th, 2011. The very first one off the machine.
Oh, that one was awesome though, man. It was so cool and unique looking, and people would see it and they'd be like,
yeah.
What is that? Like, did you just put a bunch of Play-Doh on your phone? And I was like, no, it's a PELA case. What's a PELA case? Started the conversation. But to your point though, it degraded pretty fast back then, right? It was like peeling off. You'd put it in your
it'd be
pocket
breaking
and fall to pieces. And
but
hey, evolution, evolve or perish, right? I think everything that we're talking about is kind of like evolve or perish. Yeah. Personally, businesses, products, you name it. It's all the same theme.
Absolutely.
So, Jeremy, I've got 7 questions that I always end every single interview with here.
Okay.
You've heard them if you've already listened to the show.
I have, yeah.
So it's the power of one lightning round, which you don't need to answer with one-word answers, but they all have this theme of like one thing, right? So whatever comes to mind for you when I ask the question, just feel free to answer it and elaborate as much as you want.
Okay.
Sound good?
Yeah, scared, but go ahead.
All right. So first question is, who is one person or mentor that has been the most influential in your life all time? So you can go right back to childhood.
Yeah. You know what? Thinking back on that when you mentioned it, it is my dad. Like that little bit of just it's okay to dream big, like that type of thing. And that's the last thing I say to my kids every night before bed. It's dream big. And even what's happened with PELA and how we've gone and now I'll say dream bigger. Like even with PELA, like are we dreaming big enough? Is £1 billion enough? Like why can't we dream bigger? Why, you know what I mean? Like that type of thinking, like who's stopping us from dreaming bigger? It's already crazy. Let's get really crazy. That type of thing. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to your compounding effect, right? Like right now, it might seem unfathomable that you can create the impact that you're talking about. But like, then you step back and you're like, look at how far the advancement of technology has gone in the last 10 years. Like imagine what that's going to be like in the next 10. In the next 30. Like, I can't even picture that world. So we'll probably look back at all of these like big, hairy, audacious goals that we've created and been like, oh man, we were playing small.
Yeah, exactly.
Should have 10x that one,
Yeah.
But that's a good one. I like that. Okay, second question. Who is one person or mentor that is the most influential in your life right now? So somebody that you're around frequently at this moment.
Well, personally, just my wife and kids, being around them and seeing, your kids grow up and go through life and the choices that they make and how you can lead them or how the things that they teach you, I would say. And then business side is just, my 2 partners. Like, I mean, just the things that they know and the people who they know and all of that stuff. I think, it's the old saying is you're the average of the 5 people you spend your most time with. And I didn't really get that, but it really is true. So that's something to think about for sure. Yeah. Yeah. And also, actually, I want to add on that. The one thing that really clicked in is when I was in my previous career, I heard something about, it just didn't feel right kind of thing, like going into work and kind of feeling sick and wanted to do something else. And then I just heard something recently that I think I would share that would be helpful to everyone. But if you're in a job and you want to grow your career and the people above you, if you don't want to be like them, you're probably at the wrong place.
Yeah.
And that sounds hard, but it's not maybe a personal thing, but like if you don't want your life to be that, I think that's a really good wake up call. but versus, hey, I want my life to be like that person. And I know no one's perfect, and there are different pieces of, there are different forms of wealth, obviously, and it's not all about money. But it's like, I think if you look at the round at everything and living the life that you want to live, I think that's a key thing as well. It's helped a lot for me. Yeah.
No, that's a good one. And I think to add to that too, I think from the perspective of like win-win, why can't you have everything? I think a lot of times people think like, if I'm going to sacrifice my career, it means that I need to sacrifice the money that might come with it too. It's kind of like you go down this path of being a lawyer and you're like, I don't really want to be a lawyer. I want to be a dancer. And you're like, well, how are you going to make any money being a dancer? Right. It's like, why can't you have both? Why can't you be extremely successful and passionate and make lots of money and create massive impact doing exactly what you love? Mm-hmm. And the minute you believe that you can't, you're right.
That's right.
So, you know what I mean?
Oh man, it's what a mental game is life.
Oh, it's crazy. It's crazy. And it goes back, I think, to like just the possibilities that are opening up in the world that we don't even realize yet. Like, PELA runs a business. So obviously they have a profit and loss statement and you pay a certain amount for certain roles and stuff. But like, there's a role that PELA hasn't hired for yet because it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
You're going to hire we'll actually look back on this one. Maybe I'll be a prophet on this. You're going to hire a hologram software engineer that's going to create whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But somebody has to have the vision of like, I want to go create that and turn it into something. Follow your passion and everything else will follow, So I'm glad you brought that up. That's a very, very good point. And an easy one for people to wrap their heads around too, right? It's like, am I happy? Like just ask that question, right? Am I really? Do I want to be like Steve over there? I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. Next question. What is one philanthropic cause that means the most to you and why?
That I've been thinking about just even like encouraging children and how important that is. And I think about my dad, or I think about one or two coaches who believed in you. And then I think about coaches who didn't believe in me and how I performed, how bad that was. And when I coach Cole, I think about, I was maybe over the top positive, but if there's like, I don't know, the power of positive thinking and getting kids to believe in themselves. So that is something that, I was doing with coaching hockey. And I think that's something that I believe in. It's just, finding giving that kid that spark to believe, hey, you can dream big, you can believe, you can do it if you work hard. And like it's so, don't be afraid to go after your dreams, like that type of thing. I think, and I think if that's the future, our children, if we can, they're going to be taking care of us pretty soon. So we can inspire them to live their dreams. And it gets back to even, as we talk about, one of the most important things, I think we can do to be, great citizens or great in the community is to do what we are loving to do and what we're meant to do. And you just show up better and inspire other people. And you're not the bitter person, like, you know what I mean? Like that type of thinking. So anyway, so I think it's certainly kids. And I think that's something that I was probably always craving as a kid, like from a coaching side. And, like I think you can probably think of one or two growing up, but there probably should have been more.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think one of my interviews I did recently, I was challenging somebody on like, how much impact can I really have in this world, and because sometimes it just feels like overwhelming, especially because whenever I ask this question about philanthropy, I actually talk to a lot of entrepreneurs. I just naturally kind of attract them, and that's who I'm asking to be on my podcast. But none of them say, oh, United Way, for sure, right. United Way. They just don't,
Yeah.
Most of them say, you know what, I don't really give a lot of money to the traditional nonprofits. What I do is I give my time, or, I support this initiative, or maybe they're creating their own thing because they know that the ripple effect of them just being the example or creating something that actually can create impact, has way more impact than the dollar that they can give to that nonprofit that you don't know where your money's going. And trust of nonprofits just seems to be waning over the years.
For sure.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's the personal side of it. Through PELA, we, like I said, we're member 1% for the planet. We've given back a lot of money to nonprofits, which is great. I think, when you see
it's still part of the puzzle, right?
Yeah. Business as a force of good. Maybe that's a vehicle to help, promote that. But personally, I think it's, inspiring children. Dream big, go after the dreams.
No doubt. Yeah. Because I can remember those people too, vividly, who they were, but they were on one hand, maybe two kind of thing, It wasn't. No, 100.
It wasn't. Yeah. It's amazing. It's really amazing what one or two people can do.
Yeah.
On a positive side and also on the negative side. So, yeah.
Next question. What is one thing you are most grateful for right now?
Oh, well, the obvious one is our health, but just family and health and being able to get close to my perfect day and spend the meaningful, be here for the kids and not be away in an office. And, but then, still be able to do creative work and work on things that I believe in. Those are the biggest ones. Yeah.
Perfect. What is one thing that you're most curious about right now and looking to explore further?
I am really curious about we've launched a new product. It's a little shameless plug, but it's called Lomi.
Actually.
It's called Lomi, and I am so excited about it because getting back to our waste goal, like we just kind of stumbled about it. I don't know if you want to go into it or not, but I mean,
please talk about it. I was actually going to ask you about it. You just queued it up perfectly.
Yeah. Well, I'm really excited about the potential for that in that, we kind of came at it two ways. We set this 1 billion pounds of waste goal. So that's what we're trying to get to by 2028. And then we made this compostable phone case, but not everyone has home compost. Not everyone has industrial compost access. Not every industrial composter will take it. So we're like, okay, we'll take it back. And we started the responsibility economy. So we, take complete responsibility for our products, but you're still butting your head against legislation and they were like, well, maybe we can make something that we can democratize it or decentralize waste management. So we started working on our own home compost unit and, creating that. And then we stumbled upon, hey, you know what's really bad for the environment? Food waste rotted in the landfill is 10% of all greenhouse gas emissions. And getting back to the natural cycle, the worst thing you could, an apple, when you eat the apple, it should go back to the ground. So the seeds go in, it fertilizes the tree, it grows like that. But we take this and throw it in the landfill and it creates methane and, all that. But what I'm really excited about is with Lomi, we have them, we're launching them now very soon. They'll be shipping very soon, the next month-ish. So, but I've been testing it here, but it's almost like you could see a little miracle every day. You put all your food waste in, push the button, the next day it's gone. And it's creating soil. It's amazing. And
it's 24 hours? I didn't realize it was that.
No, it's 5 hours.
Holy jeez.
So,
really?
And now we have this magic little box where you can put our phone case in or other compostable plastic products or packaging or food waste containers for your business that you thought of a long time ago, for delivery stuff. And then what I'm really excited about, we can control that box. We control the humidity. We control the temperature. Control of mixing, we add bacteria, all these cool things that we can do. And but the really thing is it's rewarding when you talk about can I really make a difference? Well, when you can see, you can actually see the difference when, hey, I don't have to take the garbage out as often. Just little stuff like that. It decreases the weight by 80%. And then we're doing a whole carbon footprint. But I'm really excited about the potential for that to be as a platform and other companies to build on it and just to incentivize people to actually show them hey, you are making a difference. And we actually calculated, we know exactly how much of a difference you're making and making it easy and inspiring kids to, that everything like that. So that's what I'm really curious about pushing. That's what gets me excited now for sure.
Yeah. Well, I'll be sure to link it up. And I watched the video that kind of explains what you were just talking about. So I'll make sure to share that with everybody too, because it's really crazy. I remember the first time seeing it, I was like, is that possible? Can you really put these things in there? I didn't realize it was 5 hours, but the one thing that really struck me was that okay, so at the other end of this, composter, this little thing that sits on the counter in your kitchen is, it creates soil.
Yeah.
And I was like, Okay, yeah, but like you're not gonna like put that in your plants in your house, like maybe out in the garden, but then it shows this like little kid like putting the soil in and stuff. It's like no smell. I'm like, what? Come on.
I know, it's really amazing.
Crazy engineering.
It is, and then how fast we put it together and built it and shipped it, and like, but I mean, it's been 3 years, but since the campaign, and I'm also really excited about how many we can test. Like we're testing, I don't know, 5 to 10 different items or recipes a day, and like advancing the science. Like that is like, our big crazy goal is to have a Lomi in every kitchen, and it's like a dishwasher. There'll be a point in time where it was before Lomi and after Lomi, and how we can actually maybe we actually can, design waste out of the human experience where everything can go into that and go back to the earth and whatever, all that stuff. So that's exciting.
Yeah, no doubt. I actually have a friend of mine who has been on the podcast as well. His name's Chris Hawker. I'll maybe connect you to him if there's a good fit there, but he's got for lack of a better term, an invention company, but it's like full cycle, right? So like he helps people come up with ideas. He helps people that have ideas, make them come to life. He helps create prototypes. He helps scale manufacturing of like sourcing of parts and stuff. He does crowdfunding stuff. Just a super smart guy, and somebody that, these kind of ideas are like, that's what like gets him excited to even talk about. So
yeah, for
anyways,
sure.
I'll send you over a link. And if there's anything we're like, yeah, maybe we should talk. Who knows? There could be a connection there to create a wave of impact there.
Awesome. Yeah, for sure.
All right, Jeremy, last question. What is one piece of advice you'd give that would help? Sorry, let me say that one again. What is one thing? I'm not going to ask you that last question. I actually took that out of my question list. I got to delete it off the sheet here. What is one thing that scares you right now that you know you need to meet with bravery?
What scares me? It's as the company grows, it's like, where do I fit in? Where does the heart fit in? And as you can tell, I'm excited about that. But it's still, that's hard. It's hard. But like I said, I have amazing partners. We have an amazing team, and like I love the team stuff and the heart stuff and the vision and the mission and I also love the sustainability stuff. But as we grow, we have major plans, like hundreds and hundreds of employees. Like maybe, you know what I mean? Like it's not crazy anymore. So I think that is just, what does Jeremy look? Who's Jeremy? Right? Yeah. Like that type of thing. And is he the entrepreneur, or is he the retired guy who, inspires kids? I don't know. That type of thing. And what keeps you, those are the daily things that you look at, because it's a roller coaster ride. As amazing as it's been, there's still days when you're like hard to get out of bed. Like it's not, you know what I mean? It's not, it's the old, it must be nice. Well, yeah. That thing. Yeah. You can do it. Go ahead. Try. You know what I mean? Like it is nice, but it's hard, that type of thing, but it's worth it. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, the growth comes in those uncomfortable places. And I know you've been through enough of those to know that feeling is actually a feeling of growth. And I think you're wired like me to know that like when that feeling goes away, you feel like something's missing, Yeah. So you almost crave that uncertainty of like, what should I do next? Who am I? How am I going to be perceived on this thing? But I think the one thing that came up for me in this interview, and I know you've done other interviews and you've had, you've done videos and you guys have done a great job of telling the story. But like, to me, the heart is the storyteller. You are the story. You are destined to be the storyteller for this company. And hopefully this interview is a piece of that to kind of unlock you to just be doing more of that, and not from a self-serving place, but just from a place that, if you say one word and one kid that's in high school that has this aspiration to create that crazy hologram thing that I was talking about, here's Jeremy Lang talk, and it leads him down a path and ultimately be hired by PELA. And that creates, that's where I see you, man. I don't know.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
And at the same time, if you just, end up coaching Little League baseball, that's cool too, because you're still creating impact,
Yeah. But, no, thanks. That's a great reminder about that's where the growth comes in. And it's a good way to look at it, getting back to the story you tell yourself, like these feelings are actually a good thing. I mean, it will be a good thing. We'll make you stronger and all that stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah. And you can take all those lessons that you learned in the hard times too, of knowing when to say no as well. I know that's the one thing that's really come up for me in the last year, especially with what in the state of the world even too, is like, I know I can keep pushing. I know I can, and I know I'll be successful because I proved that I did it. But I kind of just want to hang out and, take my kids surfing and just be, read a good book, hang out, not judge myself. And then get back to work.
That's right.
I love it.
That's right. Absolutely. Yeah. We get asked, so how come you didn't move to Kelowna? Like, it's amazing. It's beautiful. And, we have this beautiful head office and our manufacturing facility. And it just wasn't right for our family. It just wasn't. And, you wouldn't believe how hard that decision was. But then when you get back to it, then actually it isn't hard because that's the most important thing. But I mean, to set certain things aside and like, no, that's been about me long enough. Like, you know what I mean? This is what I really want to do. And that might change, but I mean, that is, where we're at. It changes by the year, by the day, or by the week. But I mean, I think that's the real good thing. What's the most important thing for me right now is what's the most important for the family kind of thing. So that's how I look at it. Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, you made the right decision there, obviously. And it's a short flight to get out here. Mm-hmm. And it is awesome out here. And I look forward to seeing you again. And
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And thank you for doing this. Tell people how they can connect with you, how they can find out more about PELA, find out about all the products, the amazing products you guys are creating.
PELA.earth. That's where everything PELA is. And I'm pretty quiet on on social. So if you send Trevor a message, you can get my email, I feel like.
There you go. So all of those.
Send it all through Trevor. Yeah. No.
All those teenage software engineer aspiring hologram.
Yes.
Holographics. Yeah. Reach out to me. You're watching this 15 years from now. Reach out to me. I'll be in touch with Jeremy still. He'll be locked down. No external communications, just doing his thing.
That's
hunting,
right.
Fishing, playing sports.
Exactly. So good.
Cool, man.
Thanks, Trevor. Yes. Good work. Keep up the awesome work. Wish you the best of luck with the podcast here. Doing great.
It's a lot of fun, man. And I appreciate you sharing your story. And we'll do this again. This is never meant to be a once and done. There's always an evolution to this because it's fun to hear the things that came up for you even in this conversation and where you ultimately take it as well. So we'll talk to you again soon.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of The Trevor Turnbull Show. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please consider subscribing on my YouTube channel and on your favorite podcast platform and leave me a review. I'd love to hear from you. Now, until next time, remember, today is a beautiful day of opportunity. Trust that you're exactly where you're supposed to be right now. So be grateful, be curious, and be brave.